It is 20 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from South Africa. Now, UN Human Rights Chief Volker Türk has expressed horror at growing accounts of serious violations during the ongoing conflict in South Sudan. These include killings of civilians, destruction and poisoning of key water sources, and waves of mass displacements. The UN Human Rights Office says in the past 17 days, more than 160 civilians have been killed in the Ruweng Administrative Area in the north of the country. And to speak to us further about what they have uncovered in South Sudan, we are joined on the line by Seif Magango, media spokesperson for the UN Human Rights Office in Nairobi, Kenya. Seif, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thanks for having me.
Now, what information has the UN Human Rights Office been able to verify just about the killings of civilians, and how credible are the reports of the water sources being deliberately destroyed or poisoned?
Yes, thanks again for having me. What we've been able to document is that over 160 civilians were killed by this militia, the Burnuer fighters, in a place called Ruweng. Also, further to that, there were other attacks by government soldiers in Jonglei, in which 21 people were killed in a place called Ayod. What is really, really shocking is that the soldiers are said to have lured people into gathering in one place, saying that they would give them food aid. These people are very hungry. They've been having a difficult time due to the conflict there. And then they just shot them and killed them. These reports collected from local sources that are credible, who also tell us that government soldiers have contaminated deliberately and destroyed water wells. This is really concerning and should be of concern to everyone, including the international community.
Now, if civilians and water sources are being targeted, would this constitute violations of international humanitarian law, and could these alleged acts amount to war crimes?
Yes, indeed, they could. These deliberate killing of civilians and targeting of civilian objects and objects that are important and crucial for day-to-day livelihood, that such provision of water being an example, could amount to a serious violation of the laws of war. Given if it were brought to a tribunal, the judges could find, potentially based on the evidence, that the people that carried out this attack committed a war crime, including those who ordered them to carry out these attacks and those who had superior responsibility over them.
And just what is being done to protect civilians who remain in affected areas, and just humanitarian organizations, are they able to reach communities in need?
Well, they're able to reach them, but with difficulty. You will have heard and read from our statement that over the weekend, the South Sudanese authorities ordered civilians to evacuate from this town called Akobo, and also ordered the UN and other humanitarian agencies to leave too. This is really concerning, and people are worried in Akobo at the moment that at any point there could be an outbreak of fighting in that area. That actually not exactly fighting, but an attack by government forces on this town, and that there could be people killed. As of now, we've heard that thousands of people have evacuated this town, but there has to be those who have been unable to leave and are at risk of losing their lives or being badly injured. Our UN colleagues in the UN mission in South Sudan remain committed to stay and to provide protective assistance to the people of Akobo and others that are affected by this unfolding conflict in South Sudan.
And what action is the UN calling for from the South Sudanese authorities?
We are calling on the South Sudanese authorities to immediately cease these attacks and for the both parties to come towards a negotiated settlement of this conflict. As you will recall, there has been since 2018 a peace agreement that ended the long war between the parties in South Sudan, which claimed hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of people. We are worried about a repeat of that violence at the outbreak of the peace agreement. So we urge the authorities to, first of all, ensure that while conducting hostilities, they take care not to attack and hurt and kill civilians, as is their obligation under international law, but also to take meaningful efforts to return to dialogue. We also call for the international community to assist them in that effort, to engage robustly with both parties to make sure that the beginnings of the conflict that we are seeing now do not become entrenched and lead to a loss of civilian lives and suffering for the South Sudanese people who have suffered enough already.
Now, what is the UN most concerned about if the violence continues?
We are concerned for the lives of the people of South Sudan who are caught in this conflict, first and foremost. But we're also concerned about the regional implications of this conflict in the sense that it could spread beyond the borders of South Sudan. As we speak, South Sudan is hosting more than 500,000 refugees and asylum seekers from Sudan. Now to see another country engulfed in armed conflict and their people potentially being displaced within South Sudan, but also forced to cross borders, is a crisis that is one can foresee, and that needn't be allowed and shouldn't be allowed to grow and become a reality.
Now, this has been ongoing for quite some time, on and off, and now it seems to have reached crisis point. Do you think enough is being done by the leaders of the country, the parties who are causing the crisis, and just the response from the international community?
We think more could be done for sure. The parties to the conflict in South Sudan seem bent on resolving their differences militarily. But as we know, military solutions are not sustainable. At the end of the day, they'll have to return to dialogue. The sooner that they do that, the better. The international community definitely needs to engage with this crisis. There are many crises around the world that might be taking priority, but that need not be the case. The lives of the people of South Sudan matter, and they need to be protected. But also there needs to be real capacity provided to humanitarian workers in South Sudan through funding the humanitarian appeals and ensuring that the humanitarian workers are able to bring food, shelter, sanitation, healthcare, provide water to the people of South Sudan. Without that, we are going to needlessly lose a lot of lives to violence, but also to attendant problems like disease, lack of nutrition, and all of that.
Well, Seif, we have run out of time and are going to have to leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thanks for having me.
That was Seif Magango, a media spokesperson for the UN Human Rights Office in Nairobi, Kenya, joining us on the line. It is 12:30 and our news headlines up next.